Good evening from the Channel's newsroom here in London. Boris Johnson has taken over from Theresa May as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Earlier, Mrs. May was given a standing ovation at the end of her final appearance at Prime Minister's Questions. She was visibly emotional as she left the House of Commons before she visited the Queen at Buckingham Palace to offer her resignation. Boris Johnson, who yesterday beat Jeremy Hunt to become Conservative leader, then also met the Queen to officially become Prime Minister. Before entering Downing Street, he gave a televised statement urging the nation to unite behind him and his new government.
And though I am today building a great team of men and women, I will take personal responsibility for the change I want to see. Never mind the backstop, the buck stops here. No one in the last few centuries has succeeded in betting against the pluck and nerve and ambition of this country. They will not succeed today. We, in this government, will work flat out to give this country the leadership it deserves. And that work begins now. Thank you very much.
The official who led an investigation into alleged Russian interference in the 2016 US election has testified before Congress. Robert Mueller faced questions at two hotly anticipated hearings. Mr. Mueller had been reluctant to testify, but agreed to do so after he was issued with two subpoenas. His testimony comes 3 months after he released his findings on Donald Trump's campaign and Russia. About 1.6 million people in Mozambique are facing food insecurity after two cyclones killed hundreds earlier this year. Cyclone Idai and Cyclone Kenneth struck just 6 weeks apart, flattening cities and villages, and in the case of Idai, which crashed into Mozambique's central region in March, prompted devastating floods in one of the worst weather-related disasters to hit the southern hemisphere. Over 67,000 children need nutritional support, with the majority already acutely malnourished. That's according to integrated food security results. The World Food Programme say they have helped more than 275,000 people affected by flooding in northern Bangladesh. To mitigate the impact of the severe flooding, the government and the World Food Programme have activated their forecast-based financing project for the first time. The approach uses weather forecasts to trigger early actions such as cash transfers that can reduce the impact of natural disasters in conjunction with existing disaster relief interventions. 2.3 million people have been affected in 20 regions in the country.
80 to 90% houses are already inundated by flood, and crops are damaged, agricultural lands are already submerged. People have already shifted their houses to the high land.
The power of large technology firms is to be investigated in the United States. That's according to the US Justice Department. It's announced an investigation into leading online platforms and examining whether they are unfairly restricting competition. No firms were named, but companies such as Facebook, Google, Amazon and Apple are likely to be scrutinized. It was sparked by widespread concerns about search, social media and some retail services online. It marks the latest scrutiny of tech power over the US economy. The French city of Bordeaux has hit its highest temperature since records began as Western Europe braces for the second heat wave to hit this summer. Meteo France registered 41.2 Celsius in the southwestern city, breaking a 2003 record of 40.7 Celsius. Forecasters predict a record-breaking run across Europe this week, including Belgium, Germany and the Netherlands. A World Meteorological Organization spokeswoman said the heat waves bore the hallmark of climate change. And finally, Nike trainers can cost a fair bit, but rarely quite this much. These 1972 running shoes were one of the first trainers made by the company, and they've just been sold for $437,000 at an auction in New York. The so-called Moon Shoe was designed by co-founder and track coach Bill Bowerman for runners at the 1972 Olympics trials. The trainers are the most expensive ever sold. Just 12 pairs were handmade, with a number being handed out to runners at the 1972 Olympic trials, and the pair being auctioned is thought to be the only one not to have been worn.
These were handmade by Bill Bowerman. Bill Bowerman, for those who don't know, is one of the co-founders of Nike. He was the Oregon State track coach, and he was making these sneakers with a waffle iron, literally. The tread on the sole is from a waffle iron that he handmade.
And that's your international news around the world in 5.
Thanks a lot, Simon. To sports, here's Olumide Macaulay.
Thank you, Ijoma. Hello and welcome to Sports News. Champions Bayelsa Queens have begun their campaign in the 2018-2019 Nigeria Women's Premier League with emphatic 3-0 victory over Kaduna Queens in Yenagoa. Former champions Rivers Angels edged FC Robo Queens 1-0 in Port Harcourt. Watford have announced the signing of Flying Eagles midfielder Tom Dele Bashiru on a 6-year deal after his contract expired at Premier League champions Manchester City. Dele Bashiru made his senior debut for Manchester City in the EPL quarter-final against Leicester City in 2017-2018, coming on for Phil Foden in the 91st minute. Finally, FIFA have banned the former head of the Liberian Football Association, Musa Bility, from football for 10 years over corruption, including misuse of funds intended for an Ebola awareness campaign. Bility, an executive committee member of the Confederation of African Football, was also hit with a $507,000 fine by judges at FIFA's Independent Ethics Committee. That's it on Sports News. Ijoma is back with the rest of the news at 10.
Thanks a lot, Olumide. And the main news again. President Buhari today opened a 2-day policy dialogue focused on strategies to drive his second-term agenda. The president promised to build on his achievements in his first tenure. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thanks a lot for staying with us. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Good night.